Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're doing our second advice show. There are sticky situations in all our lives, and sometimes we need help figuring out how to navigate them with wisdom and kindness. Modern Miss Manners is here to guide us through with grace and even some well-timed humor. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're back with another advice episode, and we did one of these back in episode 140 last summer, so if you enjoy this one, you might want to go back and listen to that one too. But anyway, Julie, Mindy, I love advice columns, podcasts, radio programs. I mean, would Oprah and Dr. Phil have gotten so big if people didn't like hearing about how to solve other people's problems?
So true.
Right. And there's no pressure because we don't know these people.
No,
That's right.
no, they're not going to come back and say, oh, you gave me the wrong advice.
Uh-huh.
And one of the advice columns I read every month is Modern Manners by Catherine Newman in Real Simple Magazine. And today we've each picked a few of the questions readers have written in to her in past issues, and we're going to compare our responses with hers. And because there's never a shortage of opinions about how to solve any problem, I think we'll all be laughing while we're learning today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't take us too seriously, though.
Right.
And we didn't pick any of these questions because they apply to our personal life. They're just interesting questions to us.
That's right. I'm not thinking of any family member or friend when I picked mine questions.
No. So no worries. And try to compare, like, what would you say to these readers? Because sometimes I really am at a loss as to what I would say. And I'm impressed by what the advice columnist says. And then other times I'm like, are you for real? Who would really follow that advice?
She's so gentle.
True.
You know, some of the questions I'm like, I don't even want to try. I'm like skipping that question.
I can't deal with that.
Right. But Julie, why don't you kick us off with what was the first question that kind of jumped out at you that, yes, this is one that I would want to answer?
Well, I don't know if you were joking before, but I did pick ones that I've experienced.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
These have pretty much all happened to me.
great. Okay, good.
All right. The first question was, my in-laws and parents have extremely expired condiments in their refrigerators. The other night at dinner, the salad dressing my in-laws put on the table had an expiration date from 2017. How do I tactfully let them know? Well, my family tactfully lets me know every time.
Oh, so you're the one putting out the expired condiments.
Yes, I do not have a problem using past date food. I go by the smell and the look. The date means nothing. So, but my kids are real sticklers. I don't know where they got that from. Maybe their dad, John. But they're always telling me, Mom, this is years old. Why are you still using this?
No.
And now that John has cancer, he has said, Julie, please don't serve me any expired food. My immune system isn't what it used to be. So I have honored that. I don't serve him anything that's past date. And if you're a guest here, I always use fresh food, but I certainly do not mind keeping things past date, like eggs 3 to 5 weeks past the date.
Really? Are you not afraid a little chicken's going to hop out when you crack that thing when you're making cookies?
No, because they're unfertilized. Dairy products. I mean, they're good at least a week, and canned goods can last forever if they're not dented or punctured.
Right.
Oh, so you don't even go by the date on a can? Because I feel like the dates on the cans are so far in the future that when we finally get there, for sure, that thing's probably bad.
I mean, it could last indefinitely in a can.
Really?
But,
Yeah.
5 or 6 years, I'm probably going to throw it out. But I'm saying, like, if it's 6 months over a year, I am not throwing that out.
If there is an apocalypse, I'm going to Julie's house. She will have food.
I think it's kind of funny because I look at the expiration dates as an excuse to get rid of something. Finally, I never used this
Mhm.
canned good and it expired. Thank you. I can throw it away guilt-free.
Oh, wow.
I never
Yeah.
used this brownie mix. Yay, it expired. I'm tossing it,
Listen,
That's true. Like if I see something from 2014, it's like, yeah, it's going.
Yeah. This is a
I can
goal
finally-
of mine that we live somewhere long enough that we're not replacing
Oh, true.
condiments once a year for when we move. No more.
Yeah. Getting back to this lady's question, salad dressing. I don't know if I want to eat expired salad dressing. Expired ketchup, maybe. But salad dressing, I feel like that could make you sick.
It's just oil and vinegar and
I don't know. I feel like if it's like a creamy one, there could
Yeah,
be
the-
like a milk or a dairy or a cheesy or I don't know what's
Well,
in
she
it
just
exactly.
said she didn't have a problem with dairy. Once her milk is solid, that's when she throws it away.
you look for mold, you look for black dots in it, you look for fuzzy stuff.
Oh, that's so
Ew.
funny.
Or if
Okay.
it's-
Yeah. Well, then, Julie, if you were an advice columnist, what would you say to this person?
Okay, so this, I think it's funny that the person that wrote it in says my parents and in-laws. So this is probably a young person. So this makes it sound like it's an old person problem. But
Okay.
it's not. I've always been this way.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
But,
Well, you lived
I
through the
would
Great Depression, so.
watch it. So I think I don't mind them telling me because, yeah, I don't like if I'm at someone's house, I might not want to eat turkey sausage. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I kind of want to
Right.
know what I'm eating. I think it's fair. So I don't have
Mhm.
a problem if they don't want to eat it. And like I said, I treat my guests better than than that.
Right.
But, yeah.
But I guess, would you point it out to the guest? Like, that's the question. Like, should she tell?
You know, if they're just concerned for me, like, hey, mom, this is expired. You better watch this. You know, I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't mind her doing
Okay.
that. But if I was at someone else's house that I wasn't related to, I might just not use it. If
Right.
I wouldn't say, well, I'm not using that. It's out of date,
All right. Well, what did Miss Manners say to do?
All right. Miss Banner says, this is not an uncommon phenomenon. And she says, cough, cough, mine too. But it's not your job to monitor their pantries and fridges, and people don't crave unsolicited advice. If you're truly concerned about their well-being, then say something. Try a matter-of-fact approach like, hey, this mayo is past prime. Should I add it to your shopping list? See how gentle she is? Generally, the dates on food packages have to do with quality, not safety. That isn't to suggest we should all be pouring old Italian dressing on our salads, but only that your in-laws should survive the occasional encounter. Hey, and I want
Oh.
to say, as a pharmacist, most medications that are past date, the date is there because it has to do with potency, not safety. Most of the time, it's just that it's not going to be as effective. And that can be bad, too. Like your medicine needs to be effective. But it's not like they're all becoming toxic.
Right.
Okay.
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 So
Good
it
to
is
know.
safe to use medicines past date that are, a little bit. I wouldn't,
Yeah.
anything liquid, you need to throw it out if it's
Yeah.
past date.
Oh, okay.
But you don't have to be so strict on that.
All right. Well, Mindy, what did you pick? What jumped out at you?
All right. Well, the first one that I'll share is something that also is more relatable for my family. So I
Okay.
thought I'll start with the relatable and go to the unrelatable. After we had a basketball hoop installed on our driveway, our next door neighbor said she'd let me know when her baby was sleeping so my children wouldn't play during her baby's nap. There are more than 50 kids on our block and they play all over the neighborhood. How should I respond?
Well, first of all, this is probably a new first-time mom.
Yes, it sounds that way, doesn't it? Like, because I would have never, with Abby, I would have thought that. Like,
Yeah.
I would put notes on the door. Don't ring the doorbell.
Mhm. Or I would just be way more sensitive to outside noises. Like,
Yeah.
I think I mentioned before, every time I put my kids down for a nap, the neighbor started up his leaf blower. You
The
know, like, I
blower,
just, like,
yeah.
it was very super annoying. But the more kids you have, the more you realize that
Mhm.
they really do sleep through. And sound machines became much more popular. And that can be a good
Right.
compromise.
And how far is your sphere of control? Like outside your
I
house? Like how far does that
know.
go? You know?
Because it doesn't cover noise. Like maybe you control what's in your yard physically, but you can't control light or noise.
Right. I will say that neighbor the mom had a very clever way of asking that. Like, it was a clever, polite way.
Like, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Since you didn't ask me when my baby's nap schedule is, I'll let you know.
Yeah, it was like subtle, but you got the message.
There was a point. And it was made. So I totally understand. I think we all agree. We can totally relate with this exhausted, probably young first-time mom.
Mm-hmm.
But we also can relate with the mom with the kids playing basketball that they've just, installed this basketball goal, because that's always my family. And I'm very aware of that ball bouncing. And so I have talked to my neighbors, even when we moved in here. I'm like, hey, look, I don't let them play past 10 p.m. Like there's some courtesies with a basketball hoop. So I think that within reason, like I said, like if there's somebody, if there's like a curfew or whatever. But other than that, I'm like, you're going to have to kind of go with the flow with, these neighbor problems can be sticky issues when you live in close proximity to people.
Right.
And you could probably say, hey, kids, for this hour between 1 and 2, we're going to be, we can sacrifice not playing basketball, just to be a good neighbor, try to compromise somehow. And because you don't want that relationship.
How would you respond to the mom? I mean, the young mom didn't have a problem pointing out what she needed, wanted.
Yeah.
What would you say, Well,
that's why I would say maybe, like, let's, we can give you in an hour, like we'll make sure that hour is always free, but maybe not like the whole afternoon or,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hard. I don't know what I would say. I think I'd be so caught off guard. And then I'd go home and poll 50 friends on what I should do before I make a decision.
Yeah, I think I'd have to process it too, because I feel like I wouldn't immediately have the wisest, like, oh, wow, like how should I respond?
Right. Because honestly, if the more experienced mom's kids are going out to play basketball, I'm picturing like it's a summer day. They've been in the house all morning and now they're going outside to play basketball. Am I really going to shut that down? Probably not.
No. That's the thing is, I think that, once the young mom, one day her kid is going to want to be out there playing basketball. You're just in different seasons. And we all know you can't understand a future season until you get to it.
Right.
Like you don't know how that feels. And so I feel like there would be just a polite way of I would start asking, well, how's the baby doing? Like, is sleep going well? And I would try to focus on babies, how her adjustment is going, and then say, I am sorry. And I do hope your baby is able to sleep well. And I'm sorry about the noise, but I can't control.
Can you move his bedroom to the other end of the house?
Yeah. So somehow like relate, but also say, I'm not really going to change it.
well, what did Miss Manners tell us to do, Mindy? Because it sounds like none of us really have a great answer for that.
I know. It's these neighbor ones always get me.
Yeah.
Okay. So Miss Manners says, someone has made a demand. You have the right not to accommodate. Actually, that surprises me because usually she's like, but she says, so how can you maintain a cordial relationship with your neighbor without shutting down the kids' fun? Assume you're dealing with an exhausted new parent who may be at her wit's end, hence the presumption of her request, then brainstorm with her. We had good luck with a white noise machine when our kids were small, you could say. Or is there room for napping on the other side of your house that's farther from the hoop, Julie? Your big kids were napping baby once. One day, her wee one will run around noisily with the pack. If there's a compassionate way to emphasize the commonality here, try that first. It will be the best approach to solving or at least mitigating your neighbor's problem.
Right. Maybe you anonymously Amazon Prime a noise machine, overnight delivery.
Oh,
look at what showed up at your door.
I know. Getting that baby to sleep, man, that first baby, it feels like life or death some days.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally understand it. It's just hard. It's hard to accommodate like two different seasons like that. Yeah. All right. Well, let me see what question popped out at me. All right. Here's kind of a midlife grandparenting problem. And so I was automatically drawn to see, what would she say about this? So the question is, my family is extremely lucky to have just about everything we need for our 2 daughters. To reduce our clutter and impact on the planet, we don't want any plastic toys gifted to our girls for the holidays. We've attempted telling our loved ones this in the past, but they still buy whatever they want. How should I handle this? Okay, oh wise ones, what do you say?
Try to tell a grandma not to buy a toy for her grandbaby. I mean, you just go right ahead and try that.
What's the kind of toy she's
right. Okay.
I'm just picturing Marie buying the what was it, Barney?
Oh, yeah. I've bought a lot of noisy toys that reside at Abigail's house. Probably because I didn't like to buy them when my kids were young, and now this is my chance. And someday Abigail can buy noisy toys for her grandchildren.
Right.
But I can almost guarantee that with this generation of parents that are going to be coming up, a lot of our listeners are going to run into this. And so this is going to be a question that happens, like you're going to be asked to only buy certain things. So what do you do? When Abigail was looking at like baby gyms for Pepper and, putting things on the baby registry, and it was like this wooden baby gym with maybe brown beads. Maybe it had a pale pink one, very monochromatic. I mean, and when I say monochromatic, it basically was wood. And maybe like some other wood toys. And I was looking at the toys and thinking, I mean, those are very attractive for adults to look at, but I don't think they scream out to the young crowd, play with me. And so, of course, I bought some things that weren't in the baby aesthetic. Like, I didn't give those at the shower because they weren't on the list. But as Pepper has grown, I have given things that do not go with the aesthetic. And Abigail has said, like, after a couple months, you kind of realize that 1, people are going to give you all sorts of things. 2, your baby's going to be attracted to what they're attracted to. And if it's colorful plastic toys that they like, and it's keeping the kid quiet and it's giving the grandparents joy, like, I don't know. I don't know if this is the hill to say, no, you can't buy these things, but we can find out what Miss Manners says.
Yeah. Julie, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't run into too much of that. Molly registered things like that too that were very, kind of what you see is trending now, the more monochromatic colors and wooden things and stuff like that. But I would say I'm going to comply because it's, I don't know, it's not my child, it's hers. And if this is what they want, then I'm going to do it. And I have, and they haven't been so specific on what kind as more the amount. Like they just want to keep it kind of low.
Right.
And so it's easy to buy great books or some clothes or small things, So, because I don't want to say, here's this, and then he loves it and they don't have a place to put it, or they don't want to look at it, or
True.
Yeah.
You're right. Like the size and the size of the toy matters for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you have to take into consideration the kind of relationship you have with the person. So yes, they suggested this, but they really secretly smile and wink that you didn't do that. But, if they're not speaking to you for 2 weeks after you showed up with the plastic gift, then you should probably not do that. Like, you kind of have to take into consideration.
My bad. Something my mom used to do, I'll just throw this out there, is she wanted to have toys at her house too. So, and Maria, I think that you do this. Toys. And Julie, I think you do this as well. Like, grandma has toys at her house that they get to play with when they're there. And then when they go home, they get their nice natural monochromatic wooden toys. I mean,
that's true. That's like I have a big train table here. I know they probably don't have room for that, so it's here.
There's stuff that maybe grandma can hold on to.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what Miss Manners says. I was controlling about the gifts my parents gave my kids when they were little, and I regret it now. It's a sensible impulse, wanting to curb the proliferation of plastic that's cluttering our homes and planet. But it's such a fleeting moment. Kids being little and excited about toys, and grandparents being, here with us still. Besides, the most loved present my kids ever got in my cloth, doll, and wooden block home was a little plastic suitcase filled with little plastic dinosaurs. In hindsight, I feel like all I did was stress out my parents when the holidays rolled around. That said, it's always fine to suggest non-stuff options like theater tickets, outings, or other experiences you could all share together. So I feel like she did a good job of recognizing both sides and saying that really years later, the thing that you're going to look back on was the joy that the grandparent had giving the toy and the joy a lot of times that the kid had receiving it. And you kind of forget about the rest. I mean, you know, within reason.
Yeah, she really did a great job answering that. And ironically, like the last two questions we just talked about was just a change in perspective, almost like looking at the same problem with different eyes, which I appreciate her doing because I think sometimes, you know, you just need to kind of get outside of yourself and think, oh, not everybody feels the way I do or is in my season.
Right. All right, Julie, now bring us back onto another question. What else jumped out at you?
Julie, what else are you doing?
Here's a really sticky one.
Okay. Oh, I can't wait.
All right. I'm getting married soon. One of my guests is vegan and asked if we'll have a vegan dessert at the wedding. She seemed disappointed when I said no.
Ridiculous.
Is it my responsibility to provide a vegan dessert for her?
No.
Okay. This is really sticky because I have close friends that have very specific diets, vegans, no pork, no gluten, all kinds. And, you know, we always want to be sensitive to that. And if we're having a small group thing, we usually try to make sure there's something they can eat. Not that we make a gluten-free item, because I don't know how to do that, but we just offer something where that wouldn't be an issue. Like there's always a salad or with some all dressing, you know. Right. But I think it would be totally unreasonable to ask somebody to plan their wedding around your diet. Like you don't go to a wedding for sustenance, for nutrition.
Right.
Like you don't go for the food. I think most people that I know that have those diets choose to eat before they get there, just knowing
they're
and then
used to it.
If they have something, they're pleasantly surprised. But
Right.
I just could never ask anybody to, you know, accommodate my diet at a big event like a wedding, because there's so many things you could never please everybody.
Right.
You know? I remember one time there was a shower situation and a lady went to the hostess and she said, "There's nothing here that my daughter can eat. Do you have anything gluten-free?" And the hostess said, "I don't. Like, we don't eat that way." You know, like caught her off guard. So she asked if she could just look for something in the house that she could eat. And it was very offensive to the hostess. Like it caught her off guard, you know, because she felt like she hadn't done a good job hosting. And then, you know,
have someone going through your pantry to
like, well, she's got to have something to eat. And I thought that is just not the right way to deal with that. You just come prepared, having eaten, or I don't know. And I know that is becoming more common. But there's just so many different situations that would be hard to know. Like, okay, do we have a gluten-free crowd, or is it a vegan crowd, or is it a no sugar crowd? Like, you know.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I feel like that question is kind of an obvious no because it's dessert, so it's not even the main meal at a huge event.
And it's a huge event.
Yeah. I think most people would say no, you don't need to. It is really hard. We have a lot of different things that people avoid in our family, an extended family, and it can be a real juggling act to put on a meal just for 10 or 12 people with different dietary preferences, let alone something like a wedding. So I feel like in this situation, Miss Manners is probably going to tell her that she's not on the hook to do that, but I don't know.
Let's see what she said. I bet you rarely regretted behaving inclusively. Should your guest have pressed this issue? Probably not. But since eating in general, and cake in particular, are integral parts of wedding festivities, it's lovely to accommodate folks with allergies and special diets. You're likely already spending a fortune. Asking your caterer to include a few vegan cupcakes or sending a friend out for one isn't going to make an appreciable difference in your budget. And you'll feel much more joyful without the distraction of a tiny preventable qualm. I don't know. I just feel like that's a big ask for a wedding because of that's just another detail to take care of.
A very nice friend to say that when you're already planning this wedding and spending a fortune.
And I want to give a shout out to my friends. They do not do that. Like the ones I'm thinking about, they never make it a big deal. They don't even really talk about it. They just show up and you might see them not eating. And it's like, oh, there's not anything here for me. Or they're just very, they just take the responsibility on themselves. And then that makes you actually want to try to accommodate them the next time. Like, oh, I hope there's, I want to have something you can eat.
Absolutely.
I guess I do like Mrs. Manners' answer in that she says you never regret behaving inclusively. So I think once the friend has brought it up and it's come to your attention, to me, I wouldn't be able to not have something then because the guilt over not having it is not worth missing out. Right. The little bit of extra time it would take for me to have someone run to Publix and get a gluten-free brownie or, a cupcake or whatever. Yeah. Like, I would probably feel compelled to do it and I would feel bad that I hadn't thought of it myself. And like, it would be such a downward spiral that it would be easier for me to just go out and get some vegan cupcakes.
Listen, if I were planning the wedding, first of all, I would be mad and I would stew. I'm like, I can't believe they just asked me to do that. I'm doing all these other things, blah, 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 blah. And then once I calmed down, I would go buy a gluten-free thing or vegan, whatever. But now that I know, I need to actually have a loving response. Once I've been angry and stewed and gotten over it.
It's so hard because my daughter Lauren has a soy issue. And I have watched her for the past 2 years go so many places and not have anything to eat that it's like every celebration, it's hard to say, oh, well, it's no big deal. You just don't get to participate. That I really do have empathy for this question.
Right.
So I'm just really torn. I totally understand the huge, the event and it's a dessert. It's not a must. It's not like you're not serving a main meal. Then I see poor Lauren's face in my mind and like, it's just hard.
It's created compassion in you where I obviously have
no, it's not that you don't. I just think until you haven't seen someone's face fall,
it's true.
That, again, there's nothing for me to eat,
know. And again, like until you've experienced something like that, you wouldn't know.
True.
But I don't think you would ever go to if Julie's planning a wedding.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't go to Julie. Hey, make sure you have a vegan cupcake.
Maybe I'll carry one in my purse.
That's what I was going to say. Just have something in your pocket.
I'm like, who doesn't bring a snack bag everywhere they go? Or is that just me?
No, once you're a mother, you do. All right. Well, here's one that is probably happened to at least Julie and I. And Mindy, I think you've been into crafts too, but okay. So this reader writes in, I made a really nice stained glass project and gave it to my friends. I wanted them to hang it in their permanent residence, but they put it up in their mountain cabin. Am I wrong to be insulted that they didn't display it where it would be seen and appreciated? Okay, you guys, have you ever made something for someone and then you didn't see it on their wall or anywhere in their house and maybe felt a smidge of hurt?
It just cracked me up that they hung it miles and miles from their house.
I will just say, okay, so I remember, Julie, I painted a picture of your house. Yeah. I poured my heart and soul into it. And you reacted like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you did this. And you hung it prominently and all that. And I try to think, okay, what if she hadn't hung it prominently? Like,
we wouldn't be here today.
Hanging prominently.
But I'm just saying, I do understand, what you put into a project. Mm-hmm. And in your mind, the person is going to be thrilled and it's going to look so great in this imaginary spot that you've picked out in your mind for their house. And I can understand the heartbreak of the reader, like the one that wrote it in.
What was the question again? Are they talking about confronting them or?
They are saying that, I don't think they're going to confront them. They're just saying, am I wrong to be insulted that they didn't display it? So should I even be feeling privately bad? Okay.
I say disappointed, not insulted.
Okay.
I'm just thrilled that her question is wise. Am I wrong to be disappointed? No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
At the same time, I appreciate that she isn't asking, once again, to push her preference or her ideas of how her friend or family member should decorate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that would be wrong. If she
Yeah,
were
like,
to say, should
the
I
lady
tell
with-
them?
The lady
Yeah.
with the new baby would say,
Yeah.
I have several places for you to hang
I'm
this. Which
sorry.
one do you choose?
Right. Her question is on her, not her
Yeah.
wanting to control the other person. So, yeah, you would be disappointed.
Yeah.
But also just realizing like that's not your house, not your
Yeah.
life.
And
you know?
also, I think like the longer she does stained glass projects, she'll realize that once I give this away, I have no control over it. So if it is something
Yeah.
precious to me and I don't
Right.
I feel like I will be disappointed if it's not hung prominently, then
Yeah.
maybe I don't give that gift. Give a different gift that you're not so
Right.
emotionally
Mhm.
invested in, because
That's true.
you might be setting yourself up for disappointment.
And you know what? Like she also may not realize what a joy that mountain home is. And so when that, person gets away to this mountain home and they're viewing this
Mhm.
beautiful stained glass, maybe that was their immediate was like, oh, this, when we go there, we're relaxed. We enjoy we're more full of gratitude and we have time to just, I don't know, like it might just
Yeah.
be
That's
that
what I was
was
thinking. Is it might
their-
fit the style better?
Yeah, it
of that
might
home.
fit that.
And maybe
yeah.
the artist doesn't get to see it there. Maybe that's it. Like she doesn't
right.
get to walk in their house and see it. But maybe a lot of
Mhm.
other people are,
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's see what Modern Manners says. I made a gorgeous skirt for a friend once and eyeballed her crankily for years, waiting for her to wear it, until I decided to stop hurting my own feelings. A gift is only a gift if it's a pleasure to receive. It's not a strings
Mhm.
attached lesson in guilt and obligation. So absolutely go ahead and feel insulted, but then try to get over it. Your friends put up your artwork in their vacation home, where they go to relax. How lovely. And even if they'd promptly tossed it into the trash, it wouldn't be you they were rejecting. It would just mean you had divergent decor preferences, a difference most friendships can weather.
Oh,
So, I mean, she said a lot of the things that we said.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to give us an A+ on that response.
I think way to go. And way to go, listener.
Okay, I just have to tell this story. I like that show, The King of Queens. It's just one of those no-brainer kind of things I relax to at night. And their friends, for their anniversary, gave them a portrait of the couple.
Oh.
And it's hideous. Like her arm is twice as big. One arm is twice as big as the other, and his teeth kind of look bucked. And so they come in and like, hey, where are you going to hang it? And they make them hang it like right in the entry hall with one of those lights over it. And so every time they walk by it, they're just so disturbed. I mean, it's hideous. So they arrange their friends to break into their home while they're out with this couple. And so they're supposed to come in and mess up the whole house and take the painting. Well, they forgot to mess it up. They just took the painting. And so when they walk in, they're like, oh my gosh, we've been robbed. And they're like, how do you know? Like, they immediately walked in saying we've been robbed. And
Oh my goodness.
it was just the painting that was gone.
Oh, no.
So yeah, you could fake a robbery if you ever have something.
Yeah, call a friend. Get some help with that.
Oh. All right, Mindy, what's a question that jumped out at you?
All right. What's a polite way to let my adult stepdaughters know there's a dress code for our beach house? I'm worried about hurting their feelings, but they've shown up in thongs and unlined bikini tops, and it's a little much. My husband isn't quite sure what to do either. I was like, with summer approaching, here we are.
This is a hard one. I don't know what you can really say to grown
Right.
girls, but I have consistently told my girls, until I don't have control over their swimsuit attire, which will be running out in about a month now for my youngest, but I have always said like if we're going to a friend's lake house, I'm like, no, don't wear that. Like, I don't want you walking around in front of so and so. Like, adult males,
Sure.
our friends, like, no, this is not the time for the thong and your skimpiest bikini. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's just going to make everybody feel uncomfortable. So I don't know. I don't know what you can say once they're adults, but I do think that's an important message to send, is that think about the company that you're walking around in front of. These are like your dad's friends, or, your mom's
or brother.
Yeah. Like, let's not be making people feel awkward. But, probably this generation would shoot me down right now because that's so sexist and horrible. And why would I even say that? But I feel like it's polite.
Yeah. To think of someone else, Marie. I really like that.
I don't know. What do you guys think what you should do in this situation? I don't know that you can do anything now that they're adults.
Right.
Yeah, it would be, I totally agree with the lady that wrote the question that it would be awkward, but it would just be a very difficult thing to handle. Yeah.
It's a completely awkward situation, which is why I totally picked the question, because
none of us have a good answer.
You just have cover-ups at the back door.
Right.
Because, they are adults, and you hope, I think that we have tried to raise our daughters to think about other people, at the same time, like, you go to the beach and you see all kinds of things.
Right.
And so, but when you're in your home, you really like to be able to relax. So I would hope that in the home, it would be a place that you would just put a cover up on or something.
Right. Yeah. Like, even if they want to wear that down at the beach, but then maybe like while you're eating lunch, you could put shorts and a tank top over it or something,
Yeah. Nobody wants to look at all that while you're trying to eat food.
Well, actually, some of the men might, but it's making people feel uncomfortable.
For real. Listen, I'm a mom of a girl and I'm a mom of boys. And, I appreciate, like, Abby and I were shopping a couple weeks ago, and she was like, I'm going to wear these bathing suits on my 1-year anniversary trip with Joey, and I'm wearing these bathing suits to our family vacation trip.
Right.
Like, they are different bathing suits.
Yes.
We actually had a situation like that come up. We had an exchange student from Paris come and stay with us for the summer.
Oh, no.
And we took her out on our boat. And oh my gosh, when she took her cover up off, her bathing suit was just strings and very small triangles. And our Molly was just always very modest, and our boys, we were a bunch of homeschool families together. And so it was very eye-opening. But, to not make a cultural faux pas, we did not say anything.
Sure.
And I thought, well, maybe she'll kind of feel awkward because no one else is dressed like that. Nope. She was,
no.
She was totally fine. So it's funny because we even have pictures of us all on our boat, and I think, what were our boys thinking?
I know.
They were thinking, I love this girl.
Can we go to Paris for our family vacation? I feel bad for my boys because they really do try to have integrity and they want to be respectful towards women. And I don't feel bad about saying that at all. And I want them to respect women. And it's really hard when, like, everything's hanging out for them to see and they're trying not to look, and it's like, you can't help but see it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I will say on this particular situation, though, back to that, they're stepdaughters. So that relationship is going to be so much more important. I don't know how long this has been a stepmom, but that particular relationship needs to be handled with kid gloves. And so I would much more value the relationship with these girls than the dress code.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the first thing I thought of when I read the question, is there's family dynamics here that are probably already strained or tense, or you don't
it's hard to
have as much freedom to say something. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because we all agreed that we've tried to teach our daughters to think about other people, but that's not the question here. This is how you react to someone who is not thinking that way. So, I think the relationship would have to be paramount in that situation.
Agreed. All right. Well, let's see what Miss Manor says. Turn the AC on super low and maybe they'll get cold enough to cover up. Or else remind yourself that our adult children, like all our guests, should be encouraged to feel at ease while they're with us. As a middle ground, you could make a more general rule about your expectations, such as no swimming suits in the house, something neither shaming nor gender specific. But if I were you, I would try to prioritize my relationships over my sense of norms and propriety. You might even feel glad that your stepkids are so comfortable, both in their body and your home.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's one of those things that she's either going to have to leave up to her husband or turn the air conditioning down.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
All right, Julie, what's the last question that you picked?
All right. This question says, my friend is a reckless driver and I can't stand being in the car with her. She drives over the speed limit, weaves around slower drivers on narrow Boston streets, and has run a red light and hit a parked car. But she'll often offer to pick me up on days when we have plans. And even though there's a bus I could take, it's hard to turn down the convenience of a ride. How can I avoid being an unwilling participant in the Fast and Furious franchise?
That's funny.
Okay, Julie, you said that you've experienced all these. So is this why you always offer to be the driver when we're going somewhere together?
It's not you, Marie.
I was like, is this me?
No, it was actually with one of my children, but I'll answer her question first. I think I would just, it kind of depends on the relationship, but I'd have a hard time telling her that she's a bad driver. Mm-hmm. I might just say, I'd rather have my own car because I'm going to go somewhere afterwards. Mm-hmm. Or I just am a nervous passenger. Because that's true. Like, mm-hmm. I'd rather probably be driving than being a passenger. Mm-hmm. I'm less nervous. So you could say something like that and just try to, kind of skirt around it. Or if she's a really good friend, you could just say, you're making me really nervous.
Right.
Like, remember when we hit that car? Make a joke out of it.
Remember that time I was in a body cast for 6 weeks?
Yeah. Like, hey, I've got a lot of people at home depending on me. I need to protect them. Well, this did happen one time with a carpool situation. One of our kids was in a carpool and the dad drove the carpool. Mm. And one time when it was my turn to drive, I hear the kids talking about how Mr. So-and-so had gone 100 miles an hour in the carpool. Mm. And I thought, surely not. Like, because this wasn't on the interstate. These were back country roads. Mm-hmm. And so I pursued that a little further, and the answer was yes, he did. Mm. So, I am probably the least confrontational person I know. Like, I just hate it. It's not that I don't disagree, but I just hate to actually bring things up. But I thought I cannot let this go. Mm-hmm. I just can't be a part of the carpool. Your kid. Yeah. Mm-mm. So I had to call the wife and say, hey, I heard the kids talking and they said, their husband went 100 miles an hour. And I was really surprised by her answer because she never denied it. She just said, I totally trust my husband to be a good and safe driver. Oh. She totally supported him, didn't question or say, oh, that sounds like him but she must have talked to him because it stopped. Mm. So,
you continued to let your kid go.
Yeah, and she probably said something like, it won't happen again, but she didn't throw him under the bus, and she never apologized.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So she, it was kind of a awkward conversation.
That would be awkward.
That would be one to write it about.
Ooh. So I've been in this situation before, but it was going to be a future family member of mine, as opposed to a friend. Mm. And I say, almost like Julie's situation, that really changes the dynamic of this scenario. Because if it's a friend, I would totally joke about it, but I'm not joking. Mm-hmm. But like my friends, I feel like I would just offer to drive. But with the family member, scared me to death. Mm. It was Bryce's stepdad. And I did offer to drive, and I was only like 17 or 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I will be taking the next shift. And I told Bryce off to the side, you're doing the rest of the driving. Like if I'm not driving, you're driving. Your stepdad is not driving.
With me in the car.
Because he would hit the brakes and I would hit the seat in front of me. I mean, it was like...
Yeah.
So it was either Bryce and I were breaking up or he was driving. Because we were just engaged at this point. But with a friend, I mean, if you're knowingly putting yourself in her car and she's being generous to pick you up, like that's your choice. You have a choice over that. So just don't go or offer to drive.
Yeah. What does modern Miss Manners say?
She says you actually do have control in the situation, but not how your friend drives. It's more about how you weigh cost and benefit, nerve-wracking convenience or inconvenient safety. You have to pick a lane. That said, you can try asking for some accommodation as long as you present the problem as yours, not hers. It's like, don't begin with, hey, Danica Patrick, would you please slow down a little? You might try, I'm so grateful for the ride, but I find myself becoming a nervous passenger these days.
Oh, that's a nice way to put that.
Yeah. Maybe, try to fob it off on yourself, like your own idiosyncrasies. You can't handle speed or any kind of abrupt stops.
And you probably can't change somebody's driving habits anyway. You know?
I mean, we've all tried to change our husband's driving habits and it doesn't work. So I think we can pretty safely say that you can't.
I know. And now that I have to drive John everywhere, it's really funny because he's like, hey, be gentle on me over here. And, I think I'm doing a great job.
You and your little Mini, you're probably weaving in and out.
And I thought, okay, I've ridden over there for 33 years.
You should sit there and take it. I say one benefit is you're showing up early to everything. Like that friend's going to get you there.
Right.
If you're alive.
That's right.
All right, Mindy, what's your third question that you really liked?
All right. I actually really love this one. So I saved it for the last.
Right.
This reader writes in, as I've gotten older, I'm 38, married with a 5-year-old. I've realized that a lot of my past behavior hurt others. I've struggled with how to rectify this. I debated writing a general apology letter for being a bad friend, a drunk idiot, a drama queen. But this would place my ego at the center of the apology, and I'm afraid the letter would seem dramatic and unnecessary, since these people are still dear friends and have, hopefully, forgiven me. What do I do?
This is so hard because haven't we all, with age, looked back on something that we've done and thought, oh, that was such a boneheaded move. Yeah. I didn't recognize it at the time, but now I see it for what it was. But I don't know if I would write apology letters for things that happened years and years ago. I don't know. You might be reopening a can of worms. Issue it is. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
If it's something you really need forgiveness for, a specific thing, I think I probably would. It was just generally who I was back then. You can't really do that. You know?
That's where the Facebook post comes in. I'm kidding.
Yeah. That's hard. That's really hard.
Okay. I had so many thoughts about this, and I just think it's beautiful where this lady is coming from. First of all, that she has the wisdom to look back and say, I've really grown up. I regret how I was. And it sounds like she did some really hurtful things, especially with like calling herself the drunk idiot. I don't know what she got herself into, but I could see, like you guys said, like in general, I don't know that I would necessarily write a letter, but I think if there were particular people that were really there for you or that you specifically hurt, forgiveness, asking for forgiveness is always a beautiful thing. It always, you almost can't hurt somebody's feelings by asking for forgiveness, by humbling yourself. And it could lead to a new level of healing, even if you're still close. It could lead you to another level of relationship healing to say, hey, like you were really there for me during that time. And I know that maybe you've forgiven me. I mean, you haven't cut me out of your life, so I'm assuming. But, I don't think you could ever really hurt someone by saying, look,
No.
please forgive me for
Mhm.
that season or whatever it was. But I also appreciate that she says, that this would put her ego at the center of it. And she already sounds like she doesn't have an ego by, like seeking forgiveness. It's not, I think she's even humble in that statement. So I don't know. That was
I don't think, like she said in another answer, I don't think it would be regrettable to
Right.
ever ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. What does she say that the reader should do?
One lovely thing about showing gratitude is that it acknowledges your friend's patience without requiring a response the way an apology can. My best guess is that being grateful now is, in fact, enough. But if there are specific people who you hurt or immaturities you want to own up to, go ahead and apologize, but individually. Don't worry too much about seeming dramatic, even if it's awkward for your friends. I hope they respond however they need to. Thank you, they might say. I was hurt back then, and I appreciate that you're reflecting on it now. And then I hope they forgive you as generously and extravagantly as they possibly can.
That's nice. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she echoes what Julie said about maybe if there's specific things. Because I think we could look back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and find something we all would do differently now.
Yeah.
Ways that we would have acted differently. Like, that's just a part of growing older, I think,
It is. It is. I know I've joked before that I don't think I would have liked me very much as a new mom or, different seasons where.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on if you've kept up with this person. Like if they're still in your life, they've seen you change and grow.
True.
But if it's somebody maybe you haven't seen in 20 years, you might need to make things right.
True.
Yeah, the relationship makes a difference on how to handle or approach something like that.
That's true. That is true. Okay, well, we'll end on this kind of funny one because it's just kind of so weird. This reader wrote in, every time we go to a restaurant with some dear friends, the wife takes out her compact and puts on lipstick, 2 coats and a gloss, and then she blots while looking in the mirror and making facial contortions. She does it even if she's going straight home afterward. Should I just keep my annoyance to myself? Yes.
Just start laughing.
You should.
Yes, you should.
Listen, that's my whole family down here in Georgia.
Oh, really?
Right? I'm just going to say the women in my family, my grandma, my Mima, was a cosmetologist. And I knew every meal, the compacts come out at the end, the lipstick goes back on, and you go about your day.
Yes. Reading this question reminds me of my mom's mom, my grandmother. She used to do this too, but from a kid's eyes, I thought it was so sophisticated and like a real grown-up thing to do. And, you'd want to imitate it like with your play compact and your play lipstick. Like, I wouldn't be annoyed by it. It was just like, wow,
Person that wrote the question said, and we're just going home. I don't know if that's what annoys her. Like there has to be something else going on.
Yeah, why is that bothering her?
Yeah, what does she care?
What's her grooming?
I think there's something else. There's something else going on.
Maybe she thinks it's rude at the table.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
yeah.
Instead of like going to the bathroom to do it.
But I don't know if she does think it's rude at the table because she says even if she's going straight home afterwards, which implies that if she was going to like something fancy, then it would be okay.
Yeah.
Maybe she in general thinks too much of her looks. Like maybe that's what she's getting at. Like,
yeah.
I definitely think there's more going on between these friends than just this lipstick thing.
Yeah, because who would care? I would find that so funny. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
be
all
saying,
the
here
faces.
comes the lipstick again. It'd be funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you would laugh about it or maybe even joke about it at the table, but who would be so upset that they would contemplate whether they should say it or not and write to an advice columnist over
Write in a column.
There's got to be something more than the lipstick.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I don't even know what she would say. Like, you're offending me, or is she just going to question, like, why do you do that?
Like she said she's annoyed. She wants to know if she should let the person know how annoying that is.
Sounds like the husbands are the ones planning this meal time together with these friends.
And they don't want to be there.
And maybe they're not the best of friends.
It's not like she's flossing her teeth,
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Like that would be gross.
Yeah. Maybe she should like reach under the table and steal the compact subtly during the meal. I don't know. And just every time they eat out, the woman's compact disappears. I don't know.
That would be funny.
But yeah, I definitely think she should keep it to herself. But let's find out what Miss Manners says. She says, when I was first foraging for wild plants, I learned there are delicious plants, morel mushrooms, and poisonous plants, deadly nightshade, but most are somewhere in the middle, edible, but you wouldn't want to eat them. Lots of people's behavior falls into this category, not wonderful and not so terrible as to merit intervention, but somewhere in the middle. You maybe wouldn't choose to behave that way, but there's nothing much to be done about it. Plus, different cultures have vastly different ideas about what's polite. In the end, we humans are weird and sometimes vain. You do you. You can think to yourself about your dear friend's lipstick routine and then let it go. I think that's really the right answer. Like, I don't think that anyone should say anything in this situation.
Just laugh about it on the ride home with your husband.
Yeah.
I know. Recreate all the facial motions, with the lips.
Oh, well, listeners, it's so fun to read about other people's problems and laugh at other people's problems. But I know that sometimes we do need the advice of our friends. So hopefully, even listening to this podcast, there may be things that you heard today that you can generalize to another situation. And it helped you out. I know that I did have a good laugh, and it probably will help me just to think about the only person I can control is me.
Yes.
And her responses are so kind. It does temper, okay, this is what I'm thinking, but this is how I should respond.
Right. All right. We don't have time for I'm a Fan, but if you want to read more Modern Manners columns, you can always subscribe to Real Simple, because I know that we've gotten a lot of topic ideas from that magazine. So you might find things that you like in there too during this stage of your life. Come and find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast, or email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you want to add to our discussion. But Julie and Mindy, I just love talking with you today, and I hope that we are just as kind as Modern Miss Manners would like us to be.
Yes, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, super fun. Enjoy talking to you guys about other people's problems.
All right. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.